back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So I'm here today to review two books, both of which I read as part of the Booktube SFF Awards shortlist. So one is in the children's and middle grade category, and that is Furthermore by Tahara Mafi, and the other one is in the adult category, and that is This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab. So I'm going to start off with my least favourite, which is this one, This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab. I was not a huge fan of this. I'm not a huge fan of Victoria Schwab. I have to say, I love a lot of the ideas she comes up with. I give her all the credit for coming up with original ideas. I think she does it very well. I think she has great intention, and a lot of her stories start out with really interesting, quite gripping ideas behind them. This one is a kind of twist on the vampire idea. So we have three different races of monsters who live in a world that is divided. They kind of set this story in a city with two halves, and each half is ruled by a kind of gang leader. In this world we have three different types of monsters. We have the Sunai, the Malkai, and the Korsai, I believe they're called. We mainly focus in this book on the Malkai and the Sunai. We don't really see an awful lot of the Korsai. And the Malkai in this book are kind of these evil creatures who are just pure evil. They're controlled mostly by a guy called Callum Harker, who is the gang leader for one side of this town, and they've kind of sworn their allegiance to him, so they obey him. But in other parts of the town they run riot. If you are protected by Callum Harker, they won't necessarily get you, but if you're not, you are at risk, especially if you're in the inner zones of this city where more of the monsters gather. Then you are more than likely to be killed if you're not protected. So it's not great, definitely not great. We then have the Sunai, who are a kind of creature that is quite unknown to Callum Harker's side of the city. They live on the other side of the city, which is ruled over by Henry Flynn, and there are only three of them. They are very, very mysterious. People don't really know an awful lot about their powers. They don't really know an awful lot about where they come from, what they do, even what they look like. There's only one Sunai who's ever been caught on camera, so they only really know what one of them looks like and what one of them does. But we follow in this book two different characters from two different sides of the city. The first one is the daughter of Callum Harker, and she is called Kate. And she is a kind of rebellious teenager. She just wants to be with her dad, running around in the city and learning in his footsteps and kind of becoming this badass character. So she's quite a rebel. She's been kicked out of lots of schools for doing stupid things, and she's trying to get back to her father. Her mother's dead. She died in a car crash, and she's trying to get back to her father to prove to him that she can take after him when he moves on or dies or whatever. And then the other character that we're following is a guy called August, who is also a teenager, and he is a Sunai. So we're seeing the Sunai from the Sunai's point of view. All of this takes a little bit of getting your head around because it's not really explained very well, and at first I was a little bit confused about who was who and what was what, but it all becomes clear quite quickly. That's the general concept. We're following these two characters. Both of them end up at the same school. They meet each other. They don't immediately realise they're on the wrong sides, and then something happens and they are forced to work together. So that's the concept. Now, I like the idea of the monsters, I do, but I don't think it was done very well, and I think the story falls into almost every trope you can think of when it comes to teenage characters, love, angst, romance, and death, or dire situations. I really feel like this book, the plot of this book, sucks. Like, it was rubbish. I did not enjoy it. I did not think it was very good. I didn't think it was original. I didn't think it was interesting. I didn't like this, guys. I'm really sorry to those of you who did. I just have a problem with V.E. Schwab. All of her books for me do this. They start out really well and then they take a massive nosedive, and I just don't like them. And I think I've read 3 or 4 of her books now. I've read The Archived, I've read A Darker Shade of Magic, I've got to read A Gathering of Shadows because that's also on the shortlist, and I've read This Savage Song, and I just think they're all a little bit like the same. They all start off strong and then they all just no. But this is probably my least favourite of them because I just didn't feel anything from this. I did not feel like it gripped me, I did not feel like it convinced me, I did not feel like it was interesting. The only interesting element was the kind of magic and finding out about these monsters, and it wasn't really utilised to the point where I think it should have been at all. There was so much more that could have been done and it just wasn't, and I just didn't like this. So that's enough said on that one. I gave it a 2 stars. It almost got a 1.5. It wasn't very good, but there were no real major problems with it. It was just bad writing in my opinion. So yeah, 2 stars. Wouldn't recommend this. Moving on to more positive things, the other book I have to review for you is Furthermore by Tahara Mafi, which again I have read one book previously by this author, and that was Shatter Me. I think I gave Shatter Me only a few stars. I didn't really like Shatter Me, but I did enjoy this, and this is in the children's category. It is a story that follows a young girl called Alice. Alice is this character on the front, the colourless one, and she lives in the town of Ferrenwood, which is a magical town, very colourful, very vibrant, very full of magic. She loves living there, that's where she's always lived, and she's very happy there with her mother and father. But as we pick up the story, we see that she has been abandoned by her father, who just kind of up and left for no apparent reason. He just left them one day, and we don't really know why. We don't really know whether he's gone deliberately or whether he's been taken. We don't really know anything about him except that he's missing, and our main character Alice really wants to find him because her kind of best relationship was always with her father and not her mother, and she feels very kind of left and abandoned without him there. So we're following her. She gets to the point in the story where she has to take a kind of assessment to give her a quest. Every person in Ferrenwood gets a quest when they come of age, and they have to prove their magical ability to sort of see how difficult their quest is going to be. And she doesn't really do that well, and in fact she does pretty badly. So she then decides that she's going to join up with one of her friend's quests, and his quest is to find her father by going into Furthermore, which is a magical, nonsensical, crazy realm of madness, essentially. No one really believes that Furthermore is still a place. They actually think it doesn't exist anymore, it's kind of a myth, and so she is very skeptical about following him, but being a young girl who lives in a magical world already, it doesn't take too much convincing as soon as he tells her that he knows where her father is. And so despite the fact that she is colourless and doesn't really show that many signs of super strong magic, at least to most people she doesn't show her magic, they go through into Furthermore, and they end up travelling through Furthermore looking for her father and having adventures along the way. Now, I really liked the writing in this book. I think some of the writing is absolutely beautiful, it's quite lyrical, it's quite lovely. I'll read you a little bit from the first page just so you get an idea. The sun was raining again. Soft and bright rain light fell through the sky, each drop tearing a neat hole in the season. Winter had been steady and predictable, but it was quite poked through now, and spring was peeking out from underneath it. The world was ready for a change. The people of Ferrenwood were excited for spring, but this was to be expected. They had always been fond of predictable, reliable sorts of changes, like night turning into day and rain turning into snow. They didn't much care for night turning into cake or rain turning into shoelaces, because that wouldn't make sense, and making sense was terribly important to these people who'd built their lives around magic, and squint as they might, it was very difficult for any of them to make any sense of Alice. Alice is colourless, I've mentioned this. She actually has no pigment at all in her skin, which means she barely shows any colour, and she doesn't really fit into Ferrenwood very well, and a lot of people kind of are scared of her because she's quite a willful child. She does a lot of adventuring around, looking for all sorts of crazy fruits and berries in the woods, and kind of undressing at will, being quite a free spirit and being quite open and happy, but she definitely feels very isolated and cut off from the community around her. So that was a very interesting element, combined with the nice writing that I really enjoyed at times, and the fact that this crazy world of Furthermore is the focal point. This had the potential to be really, really great. However, the things that I felt held it back a little bit were the main character that she is with, who is called Oliver. Oliver really irked me because Oliver knows a lot about Furthermore, the world that they're travelling to, and he doesn't tell Alice any of it for no reason whatsoever. There's no justifiable reason why he can't tell her more about the world, but he just keeps saying, oh, there's no time, we've got to hurry. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you're walking, you're running, just tell her as you walk and run. But he didn't, and that really annoyed me because there were a lot of plot holes that if they'd just spoken and he'd just told her instead of arguing with her and saying why he couldn't tell her and telling her a million reasons, it would have been a lot better if he just told her stuff. So that annoyed me, and the story itself was quite simple. As soon as they get onto this quest, it's quite obvious that they're probably going to succeed, and of course they have adventures along the way, but we know that they're probably going to succeed in the end somehow. I didn't feel like I was very surprised by this book. I didn't feel like it blew me away in writing style or in content, but I do think that it has some nice elements to it, and it definitely wasn't a bad read. It was quite likeable, it was quite easy, and I gave this one a 3.5 in the end because, as I say, I enjoyed it. I did think it was fun, and I didn't really have a problem with this at all. I just felt like there were some minor things that could have been done better. So that's my final thoughts on Furthermore, and my final thoughts on this Savage song. This one's gonna be going straight in the charity pile. This one I'll probably keep for now. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below if you read either of these for Booktube SFF or if you'd already read them in the past. What did you think of them? Do you agree or disagree with me? Tell me down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.